Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. We'll start with a check of the top headlines this hour. A Ukrainian delegation heads to the US for talks on security guarantees and a post-war recovery package. President Zelensky says Kyiv needs up to $800 billion and hopes to sign key documents at Davos. The White House announces a US-led board of peace to oversee temporary governance in Gaza as deadly violence continues despite a fragile ceasefire. The board includes Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Tony Blair and Jared Kushner, with President Trump serving as chair. Residents say Iran's deadly crackdown has largely quelled protests as state media reports more arrests. President Trump claims Iran halts planned executions, though Tehran makes no official confirmation. Reza Pahlavi calls on the world to help oust Iran's Islamic Republic and target Revolutionary Guard leaders. Iran's security forces appear to have suppressed the nationwide protests after more than 3,000 deaths, rights groups say. Syria's President Ahmed al-Shara formally recognizes Kurdish language rights and restores citizenship to all Kurdish Syrians. The decree follows deadly Aleppo clashes that killed 23 and displaced over 150,000 before Kurdish forces withdrew. Uganda's army denies claims that opposition leader Bobi Wine is abducted by military helicopter after the election. His party maintains he is forcibly removed from his home as authorities reject the allegations. Myanmar's military-backed USDP widens its lead after the second round of voting. Official figures show the party is set to win 182 of 330 seats as the election enters its final phase amid conflict. The U.S. Justice Department investigates Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey over alleged obstruction of ICE operations. The probe follows the fatal shooting of Rennie Good by an ICE agent, which triggers protests in Minneapolis. All right, viewers, let's start with the top focus story. Now, Ukrainian negotiators have arrived in the United States for crucial talks with the Trump administration, aiming to end the nearly 4-year conflict with Russia. The Ukrainian delegation, led by key officials Kirilo Budanov, Rustev Umurov, and David Arakmia, is set to meet with Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner. The meeting will take place in Miami, just days short of the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine is looking for security guarantees and clarity on post-war reconstruction, support from its allies. President Trump has been pushing for a peace agreement and voiced frustration with both sides, stating that no significant breakthrough has been reached. However, Trump has also pressed Ukraine to accept peace terms that Kyiv feels would amount to capitulation. President Zelensky has expressed hope that a deal could be signed with the US next week. All right, joining me now in this discussion is Gautam Mukherjee, who is a senior journalist from New Delhi. Mr. Mukherjee, thank you very much for joining us in this discussion. Trump, of course, has expressed his discontentment with both sides, but he still said that Zelensky seems to be making some progress as far as peace is concerned. But what remains a sticking point is the security guarantee. Question of the security guarantees that Trump, even though has assured verbally, but no such agreement or paper has been signed to say that.
Well, the security guarantees are being demanded for 50 years, which is considered unrealistic. The Americans have promised them for 15 years. The details are yet to be worked out. In any event, the other sticking point, which may not be mentioned right now, but is the big holdup, is the secession of at least 1/3 of Ukraine to the Russians. Now, if that is accepted as per the Russian demands, the security guarantees at 15 years can probably grow through.
All right. What do you think is required to push Putin also to achieve at, or to arrive at a peace dialogue conclusion? Because there's nothing that's been able to budge Putin from his maximalist demands as of now.
Well, they're not maximalist if you look at it from the point of view of why this war was started and the fact that it has gone on for 4 years. There are Russian-speaking Ukrainians who would rather be with Russia, and they are all in the Donbas area in the south. And this is more or less the area occupied by Russia, and they want to make it part of Russia. The people there want to be part of Russia. Russia wants this territory to be merged with Russia. And I don't know if you can call it a maximalist position.
All right, sure, we take your point. But what do you expect from this meeting that's now due between Ukrainian negotiators and Trump's team?
Not a lot, frankly, because unless they budge from their position, this is not going to go through. To ask for a 50-year guarantee is unrealistic. 15 years is what is on the table, and they need to accept that. Perhaps they can't, politically speaking, in terms of the Ukrainian demands back home. And so I cannot expect very much from this negotiation. It won't go very far, but talking is always good. Sooner or later, something will come out of it.
Well, we hope so, because the talks have been going on for about 4 years now, but nothing really has materialized. So we hope so. But thanks very much for joining us in this discussion, Mr. Mukherjee. And with that, viewers, we're now going to proceed to cover news from Iran, where internet monitoring group NetBlocks has confirmed that connectivity in Iran has seen a very slight increase, surpassing the 200-hour mark of a total nationwide blackout. Despite this change, access remains restricted to approximately 2% of ordinary levels, with NetBlocks noting that there is still no indication of a significant return to service. The blackout was originally imposed on January 8 as authorities moved to suppress escalating demonstrations. While some users overseas reportedly receiving limited messages from within the country, the digital environment remains largely severed from the global internet as the regime maintains strict control over information flow. Meanwhile, Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has condemned the repression and killings carried out by the Iranian regime and also called on Iran to guarantee the safety of citizens who wish to demonstrate. Let's have a look at what Italy's Prime Minister had to say.
Condanniamo la repressione, condanniamo le uccisioni da parte del regime iraniano, chiediamo all'Iran di garantire l'incolumità dei cittadini che vogliono manifestare, ma stiamo lavorando per una de-escalation e per cercare di tornare su negoziazioni che possano risolvere soprattutto quello che riguarda il tema del dossier.
All right, joining me now in this discussion is Hamid Reza Gholamzadeh, who's director of Diplo House in Iran. He joins us from Tehran. Thank you very much for joining me in this discussion. Now that we have you live from Tehran, please do give us a situation of the ground reality and how are protests being staged as of now, if the intensity of the demonstrations have come down. Do take us through the latest on the ground.
Thank you very much for having me. Actually, the tensions and the riots were only for January 8th to 10th of January. So we had 3 days of demonstrations and violent riots across the country. And after that, it has been quite calm, actually, in different cities of the country. And of course, before January 8th, we had demonstrations and protests, which were peaceful protests actually, by people in the market or business or common people who came to the streets, and there were no tensions at that time. I mean, early in January and late in December. But on 8th of January, what happened was that a huge number of people came to the streets on Thursday. And it was actually a combination of majority of people who had were protesting the bad economy, and the minority on the other side, which were exploiting this community. And they were the rioters who were trained by outsiders, and they were armed, and they were violent, and they tried to destroy everything. So by exploiting the population and the protest, the legitimate protest of the public people, they try to turn it into a riot and make the demonstration against the whole establishment, and they go against the whole Islamic Republic. And that was when where it began actually, and we had chaos and riots for 3 days. And after that, it was calm because the security forces could contain it. And of course, on the second day, which was Friday, Friday, January 9th, the most significant thing happened, and the public, the people, the common people, distanced themselves from the rioters. And we had a sudden drop in the number of the people on the streets on the second night. And then it was only the security forces and the rioters. And after that, it was contained. And then on Monday, we had actually January 12th. We had a public demonstration in millions across the country in support of the Islamic Republic and against the riots and against the terrorism that happened and against the killings of the common people by the terrorists who were on the streets. So after that, we can say everything was concluded, and people themselves concluded everything to push back the terrorists and violent rioters who were there to exploit their demands and their protests.
Do take us through the internet connectivity situation. Is there really a complete blackout? Because we are seeing some videos from protesters coming out on social media. We're also being told that some people do have access to Starlink internet. How much of the news about a complete blackout is really true?
Actually, the blackout is true because the terrorists were using the internet connections and the messengers and such things to organize their violence and their terrorist attacks. So because of that, for the sake of security, the government decided to take down the internet, and everything was disconnected. And gradually, it is being reconnected again. I've heard about this Starlink. I cannot actually confirm that. But as far as I know, it is illegal. Internationally, it is illegal if the Starlink is providing services inside Iran, because according to international rules, they need to have the approval of the government, and they do not have, and they are supporting actually with that. They are supporting terrorism that was being carried out here in the country and led to death of many people. So I don't know if there were connections. Apparently, there have been some connections for some media outlets, for embassies, and for just since yesterday, the Ministry for Culture decided to provide some access to the internet for the people in the media, including me, who appear on the media for interviews and such things. And that's how I have access, and some other media people also have access right now. And the way I've been told, there are going to be gradual improvement of the access in order to be able to control if there is any terrorist organizations inside the these messengers or the using the internet connection and etc.
All right. Now, Khamenei has time and again said there are some there is foreign hand behind the unrest, and there are other voices that have also come out that say that the protests and the unrest is actually instigated. Who do you think these instigators really are?
So the short answer is the United States. The longer answer again would be the United States and the Zionist regime of Israel. And they have done such things in the past as well. And throughout the history of the Islamic revolution, we have these instances of foreign intervention, foreign coups, and agents supported and armed by the outsiders to kill people and to destabilize the country. And there has been recordings and documents showing that these recent events were also connected to the outsiders. And there are some, I listened to a recorded voice of conversation between an Israeli agent and one of these people who was armed and trained to create bombs, explosive devices, and Molotov cocktails in order to destroy the facilities and public entities. So we have enough documents. And of course, at the top of all, we have the President Trump supporting the protesters. Let's say the rioters, calling them protesters and calling them peaceful protesters. Today, we had MKO organization. We call it Munafiqin organization. It was actually a terrorist group, dissidents at the early years of after the revolution, who are supported by the Americans and the Europeans, and they are mainly based in France and Albania. And today they released the list of their forces who have been killed by security forces inside Iran. So they are clear terrorist groups. And in the past, the Americans had listed them as on the blacklist of the terrorist groups, and then they decided politically to remove them from the list. And they have again participated in such violences and killed people. This group is responsible for killing 17,000 people since the early years of the revolution. So for the past 4 or 5 decades, they have killed 17,000 people. And now they are on the streets, they are back, and they have claimed that they have actually had forces on the ground here, and they have been killed by the security forces.
All right, then Mr. Ghulamzadeh, thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your perspective with us. And viewers, we're now going to proceed to cover some news from Taiwan, where a Chinese reconnaissance drone was spotted over Taiwan-controlled Pratas Islands, sparking outrage from Taiwan's defense ministry, which labeled the move provocative. The drone entered Taiwanese airspace for about 8 minutes before departing after warnings were issued. Taiwan condemned the incident, describing it as irresponsible and a violation of international law. However, the Pratas Islands, located in the South China Sea, are claimed by both China and Taiwan, which the latter asserting sovereignty on it. The latest move underscores rising military tensions as China intensifies its presence near Taiwan. I request Dr. Sanjay Kumar, who is journalist at the Korea Herald, to join me in this discussion. He joins us from South Korea. Dr. Kumar, thanks very much for joining us. What's really the situation like there near Taiwan, and what do you think is Taiwan doing now amidst this escalation?
Preeti, in this world of escalations we are seeing every day, we can say that the factories have become fortress, and the supply chain interests have become new form of alliance. And if this does not go aligned or does not serve the interest of one country, it gets escalated in some sort of retaliation that we are seeing in case of Taiwan. So yes, it is not healthy thing for the peace-loving people across the globe to see U.S., China confronting each other on the issue of Taiwan. So from Taiwan's perspective, it is not just about commerce, but it is also about strategic alignment with United States. So I am seeing in this way.
All right, sure. And is there any statement or response that's coming from China over this?
See, we have to see three perspectives here. One is the geo-economic perspective of US and Taiwan, because Taiwan's dominance in technology is well known, and it wants to utilize this as a geo as an insurance over security while dealing with the US, and bring US in the security dynamics, which had been looking passive last few weeks. If you can see that when Japan made some remarks, US did not respond with the same intensity that it used to be a few years back. So there is an angle of US Taiwan here. And coming to your question, from Chinese perspective, they don't want to see any kind of this any kind of economic alignment with US changing the status quo of Taiwan, and changing changing it to be a political normalization over Taiwan between countries, and US is a big player in this case. So that is why they, from Chinese viewpoint, they don't want to see Taiwan being normalized politically, because once it gets normalized politically in terms of US and countries like Japan, then it will create hurdles in one China policy, and China wants the one China policy to be actively and passively on both the sides to be accepted by the world and the regional powers in that area. So you can see that it is a geo-economic deterrence from Taiwan, which is being once again escalated as part of Indo-Pacific rivalry.
What kind of a response, if any, we should expect from the US? Because the last time when there were drills in the Yellow Sea area and the South China Sea area, you would remember Trump had said that he doesn't see any problem and called the exercises just a routine affair.
The US will try to maximize its leverage when it comes to technology and the economic interests that they have in Taiwan, and it is a very right time for them to leverage it and expand it first. I personally do not see anything on the security front. They will leave it for long term. I mean, when because Trump is to visit China also this year after a few months, and the US and China are talking on various issues, including trade and supply chains. So I think they will be having a policy of wait and watch for few months strategically, and if something goes wrong in those talks with China, then from US viewpoint they would use Taiwan issue, and they would like to once again leverage the security interest by bringing China on the table once again. So this can be one of the tactics of the Trump's administration's advisors. I am seeing in that way.
All right, sure, Dr. Kumar, thank you for your assessment of the situation. But to stay on with me, viewers, let's also bring you some tech news. Now, South Korean Trade Minister Yo Yan-koo, who has stated that the US proclamation imposing a 25% tariff on certain advanced computing chips would have a limited impact on South Korean companies. Han-koo added that while the government remains cautious at an early stage, the first phase measures announced so far focused on advanced chips made by NVIDIA and AMD. US President Donald Trump has signed a proclamation to address national security concerns related to semiconductor imports, imposing a 25% tariff on certain artificial intelligence chips, such as NVIDIA's H200 AI processor and AMD's MI325X. The White House has said that the tariffs would be narrowly focused and would not apply to chips and derivatives devices imported for US data centers, which is a huge consumer of AI chips, startups, non-data center consumer applications, non-data center civil industrial applications, and the US public sector applications. Let's request Dr. Kumar to join us back with his first comments on this.
Priti, from a Chip 4 Alliance perspective, South Korea is already in that membership group. So that is why I can see why Johan Gu, the trade minister, is very confident. So from South Korean perspective, they are working with the US on various fronts in the AI sector. They have also committed to work with in the Make American Shipbuilding Great Again initiative as well. And on tech front also, they are working. And many investments also had been promised. The trade deals have been almost finalized. Only the product-wise finalization is left. And President Trump and President Lee has met 2 times within 6 months. Once during APEC and once during the summit meeting there in the US. So because of all these engagements, South Korea is looking very confident. And this is the reason the trade minister and the trade representatives from South Korea is trying to make things work well.
All right, sure, Dr. Kumar. Thanks very much then for joining us in this discussion again. And viewers, there's some news now coming in from Africa. Ugandan police has denied allegations by opposition leader Bobi Wine's party that he had been arrested by soldiers as President Yoweri Museveni closed in on a landslide re-election. Wine's National Unity platform has said that an army helicopter landed in his compound in Kampala and forcibly took him away to an unknown destination. Wine has alleged mass fraud during election, held under an internet blackout, and called on supporters to protest. The vote has been widely seen as a test of the 81-year-old Museveni's political strength and ability to avoid the unrest that has rocked neighbors like Tanzania and Kenya. And that's all we have time for. Thank you for watching NewsX World. For all international news and updates from